What's up guys, and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to cover my in-game Upheaval Barbarian build that one-shots everything currently in the game with massive overpower hits. I have seen ticks of damage up to 175 million with this current setup. With this build, I wanted to get as much damage as we could while also having a lot of defense at the same time, because I plan to push the build in the upcoming Zir event in December. This build is focused on critical overpower hits, and with everything set up correctly, we do massive amounts of damage. We have multiple sources of overpower, which we will cover in the guide, and a consistent way to critically strike. In this guide, we will cover everything about the build from A to Z. This build also rips through tier 100 nightmare dungeons with ease. There will be a bit of dungeon gameplay at the end if you want to check that out. Timestamps will be down below. If you end up enjoying the video, don't forget to like and sub for more content just like this. Anyways, let's get right into it. Starting off with the skills for the build, guys. Up top, we're gonna use Lunging Strike. This is our generator. Now I don't even use this really at all anymore, but you will have this as a generator if need be. Here's our bread and butter. Upheaval, does a huge AoE of damage in front of us. Big damage dealer. Down here we have Challenging Shout. You can see right there, taunt nearby enemies. You get 40% damage reduction, and then while it's active, you get bonus maximum life, and you get 3 fury each time you take damage. Iron Skin, basically for more defense and fortify, and you get a barrier. Rallying Cry grants us unstoppable. You get more fortify, just really good to have. And then down here into War Cry, basically this increases our damage multiplicatively by 15% for 7.4 seconds, and also we get Berserking, which we deal more damage with Berserking, and we have more fortify with this. But we'll briefly go over the skill rotation just to kind of show you guys how the build works. As for our War Cry and Shouts, we want to use those obviously when we go up to enemies, to boost us up defensively and offensively. Now, with this build, we are using Tibalt's Will. This gives us a 40% damage boost when we go unstoppable. And, in our Vampiric Powers, we have Metamorphosis. This makes us go unstoppable. So every time we go unstoppable, we get a 40% damage boost. And then on top of that, you can see down there, you get 50 of your primary resource when you use this. So anytime that we dash, you see my resource is 0. We dash, it jumps me up to 90. You know what I mean? So we get resource and a huge damage boost just by every time that we dash, using our Metamorphosis. Now, on top of that, we have this ring from Varshan, Ring of Red Furor. You can see right there, after spending 100 Fury within 3 seconds, your next Upheaval, guaranteed critical strike. So basically almost every other hit is a guaranteed crit strike if we time it right. And you get 26% multiplicative bonus critical strike damage with this. So what you want to do is, like, say you come up to these enemies right here, cast your Shouts, okay? You can cast your Iron Skin if you need to. Then you want to go ahead and evade, and then slam. Now you want to slam twice, so you spin that full 100%. And then right afterwards, you see right there that I evaded again for Metamorphosis to get my stuff back up. And then now, since I slammed twice and I spent 100 of my Fury right there, your next hit is going to be a critical strike. So as long as you have that rotation where, let's see if we can find some enemies. So there we go. Dash through them, guys, and then slam. And then slamming 2 times like that, you're spinning the 100. So now my next one is going to be a crit strike again, as you can see right here. Okay. And then you can dash, you can get our Fury back up. Want to definitely be dashing. That's pretty much the rotation for this build. And once you get it down, real simple to do. And then you'll have your War Cries and Shouts and stuff coming back up at all times. So use those. Dash, slam into a pack, slam into a pack again, or you have 3 seconds to do that second slam and spinning that 100 Fury to get this buff again right here. All right. As for our expertise, we want to choose the Axe Expertise right here. You can see right there we get 15% multiplicative increased damage to vulnerable enemies, and anytime that we evade through an enemy or over a boss or whatever, they're becoming vulnerable because of our Metamorphosis, and then we get a nice damage boost. For our Vampiric Powers, we'll start down here. We want to take Metamorphosis. You want to try to keep this at level 1 if you can, so that you're only unstoppable for 2 seconds, and then you can cast it more often and boost your resources more often. I really don't have any problems even at the highest level right here, but you could keep it without leveling it, and then you can use this every 2 seconds. And basically this with our other Vampiric Power makes enemies vulnerable also, so it's really nice. It curses them. You want to get resilience right here. Basically, you get damage reduction for every 2% of your life that you're missing. You know, works out really good in High Nightmare dungeons. You know, you get low on life, you get tons of damage reduction. We're going to go Blood Boil. This will be one of our ways of overpowering. You can see right there when your core skills overpower an enemy on the droplets, you know, and that do damage, physical damage. We're not worried about that. You see, secondly, every 20 seconds, your next skill is a guaranteed overpower. So that's one way that we have guaranteed overpowers. Sanguine Brace right here. When you kill an enemy, you fortify for 6% of your base life. This just helps to keep our fortify up at all times and our damage reduction up. Really nice to have. And we also get an 8% base crit chance. Not too big of a deal with the ring that we're using, but not bad. Right here, we're going to take Prey on the Weak. You deal 16% multiplicative increased damage to vulnerable enemies. And we're always making the tougher targets vulnerable. As you can see right here, enemies are vulnerable while affected by a vampiric curse. So anytime that we, you know, use Metamorphosis and go across a pack of enemies or whatever enemies, they become vulnerable. And this right here gives us a nice damage boost. Boom. For the gear and aspects used on the build, starting off, guys, up here you can see we have a pretty high attack power. Now, right off the bat, a lot of people will go with the Hellhammer for Upheaval. You know, it does have good stats. It gives you 6 ranks of Upheaval, right? And people would see that and be like, oh, that's a ton of damage, which it does give you a ton of damage. And then also gives you the, you know, burn effect, which is pretty cool, looks cool and stuff like that. But if you have, you know, a weapon like this, it is a lot more damage. I've done testing. Yes, we're losing 6 ranks, but the raw damage that we're getting from this, you know, with all the stats, overpower damage, you know, all stats, strength, which also gives us armor. You know, as you can see right here, strength increases our damage and armor. You know, the all stats giving us a ton of more strength, damage, armor. You know, huge item power, and then we get the Edge Masters on there, which is 40% multiplicative damage. You know, it's just overall this is better. You know, and another thing is that, you know, people might say, well, you know, use this and the burn damage keeps up your disobedience, keep your armor up. Well, I have it set up to where we're making enemies bleed, and you know, we have bleed in the skill tree that you see also, and that's ticking away, keeping our disobedience up like at all times. You know what I mean? So this is actually really defensive. And then while we have bleed, because of this aspect of here, we have 20% damage reduction because of nearby bleeding enemies, which all enemies around us are usually bleeding. So it's up at all times too. But we'll go more into that with the gear. You definitely want to make sure to have all of your resistances up, guys. Okay, you want to get those to 70. And then you can see right here, we have, you know, just a ton of armor. I got 11k armor. With our disobedience up, I mean, it's pushing like almost 17k, I'm pretty sure. And you know, we're capped off in armor, so we have no issues in those high dungeons, and that's definitely going to help with the event coming up in December as well. Also, before we go over the gear, I do use the Grandfather. Now, you don't have to use this. Obviously, if you don't have the Grandfather, you get yourself something like this, get an axe, so that you have the implicit damage to healthy enemies up there. And then you want to look for the same stats as on your two-hander over here. And then for your aspect, you want to put the aspect of elements. You know, basically every 7 seconds, or pretty much for 7 seconds, you get damage to physical. And, you know, it's on and off for 7 on, 7 off. But 7, you know, half the time you're pretty much got a 60% multiplier to your physical damage, which is huge. So you'll want to, you know, get yourself a 925 axe, two-handed axe over there on this side with this on it and similar stats to that. So you don't have to have the Grandfather. But anyway, starting off up in the helm, okay, you know, you're going to want to push high content and probably the event coming up with this build. You're definitely want to get total armor anywhere that you can. So you want to get it up here in your helmet, get the resistances you need, try to get maximum fury. Up there for the aspect that we're going to go with the Iron Blood aspect. You know, you gain 4% damage reduction for each nearby bleeding enemy, up to 20%. And because of this down here, we're going to be making all enemies bleed. And we take Thorns, which also deals bleeding damage in our skill tree, so all the enemies around us are bleeding at all times. Nice, it's really nice defensively. And, you know, with all the enemies bleeding, it's ticking away for 5 seconds, keeping our next aspect right here on the armor up, which is Disobedience, just skyrocketing in our armor, especially right here at a base of like over 11k. We have no issues with armor on this, and it's really good to have that. For the armor, now, this armor is pretty good right here. I got my total percent armor, which you want to have. You want to get damage reduction like I have. I have close and distant. The only way this armor could be better was I would have traded out the 6.6% damage for either more damage reduction or maximum life, which would also be good. So, you know, aside from that, it's got really good rolls on this. Get as high item power as you can on all your gear. So, In all of your gear, guys, you're going to want to put rubies for maximum life. Into your gloves, you don't really have to have the crit strike chance with the ring that we have now, the Malignant ring over here. I do have that though. I have overpower damage. Strength is good on your gloves. You definitely want to get the 4 ranks to upheavals on there. And then on here, we're going to put the accelerating aspect so we get more attack speed. Makes everything run a lot smoother. Now into the pants, we're going to use Tibalt's Will. This is great, gives us resource damage. You know, and then you can see you deal 40% multiplicative increased damage while unstoppable. We go unstoppable because of our Vampiric Power, boosting our, you know, damage up quite a bit. And then also, every time we go unstoppable or we use Metamorphosis, we get 50%, or I'm sorry, 50 to our primary resource, which is also boosted by our resource generation that we have on rings and stuff. Down into the boots, you want to get as much movement speed as you can, as much defense, you know, item power, sorry. And then you want to get whatever resistances you need. You know, I capped off all my resistances all the way to the point where I didn't need anything over here for resistances. So I have all skulls for even more armor, which helps me hit that 11k mark right there. So on the boots, you're going to want to get the Ghostwalker aspect. You see right there, while unstoppable, and for 4 seconds afterwards. But basically every time we use Metamorphosis, you gain 16% increased movement speed and can move freely through enemies. That's just really nice. I mean, we're constantly having this up. We have more, you know, movement speed, which is awesome, and we're just going right through the enemies with no problems. Right into the weapon. Now, we talked about a minute ago, the Hellhammer. I mean, you could run this option. I wouldn't, though. Like I said, I've tested it in Kyovashad at the training dummies. I've, you know, ran it, obviously, through dungeons and stuff. The way I have it set up right here is just way better. And then with this setup, not only is it doing more damage, but we're also able to run this aspect right here and get the bleed damage into the build, helping out defensively and everything else. So definitely want to get yourself a two-handed mace. Try to get as high item power as you can. Now, I actually have, in my opinion, a perfect mace right here for the build. You want to get all stats, strength, very important, overpower damage, and damage while berserking. You'll see in the Paragon board, we want to get as much damage while berserking as we can. That turns into a multiplicative damage source for us in the Paragon board, so it's really important. You want that anywhere you can get it. The only way that this weapon could be any better is if all my rolls were max rolls on those. You know, if that was, you know, 42% instead of 31.5 with the damage while berserking. But aside from that, this is like a perfect weapon right here. So this is what you want to look for. And then you also want to put rubies in your weapons for the overpower damage. Right here, you want to get maces. The reason you want maces, guys, is for the overpower implicit up top. You see 78.8% for the implicit. And then it's the same thing as over here. You know, with your weapons, you want to get the same stats. You want to look for the same stats as I have right here. You know, strength, all stats, overpower damage, damage while berserking. This one's actually perfect as well with that. Not so perfect right here. I'm missing the all stats. So instead of the critical strike chance, I'd prefer to have all stats right there on that. As for the aspect right here on the first one, we want to go with the aspect of limitless rage. Each point of fury you generate while at maximum fury grants your next core skill 2% multiplicative increased damage up to 30%. And we're always boosting it over, so this is giving us a nice multiplier to our damage. Right here on the second one, we want to go with the bloodsucker aspect. You can see right there, whenever you deal direct damage while berserking, inflict 28% of the base damage dealt as additional bleeding damage over 5 seconds. So, you know, it's just taking damage at 5 seconds. Now, this bleeding damage isn't doing anything in the grand scheme of things as far as killing the enemies. All it's doing is keeping this aspect up for more damage reduction, and it's making to where our disobedience is at full stacks at all times. So it's helping our defense, you know, immensely. So we definitely want to have that right there. Up here, now you definitely want to try to get this amulet. You can get this drop. It's not a uber unique. The Banished Lords. Now this is our other way of overpower right here. We have a couple others as well. We will see later on in the Paragon board, but this is another way we overpower right here. Has great stats, core skills, resource regeneration, overpower damage, critical strikes. But you can, the main thing you can see right there, after you spend 300 of your primary resource, your next core skill is guaranteed to overpower. And then with this amulet, your critical strikes that overpower deal 120% multiplicative increased damage. That's how we're doing those huge, you know, 170 million damage ticks, just insane damage. So you definitely want to have this. Right here for your ring, this is going to be the only actual ring, like regular ring that we have. Obviously, we're going to be using this ancestral ring that you get from Varsham. We'll go over that in a second. Up here, what you want to look for is damage for damage while berserking, maximum fury, resource regeneration, and then overpower damage again, if you can get it. The critical strike isn't bad that I have right there. So on this ring, the aspect that you want to go with is the aspect of unrelenting fury. It's another way that we keep our resource up. Killing an enemy or hitting a boss with a core skill refunds 29%, and that's up to 30% of its base fury cost. And we're just one shot and everything, so we're getting fury back like all the time with this. Really good to have. Now you definitely want to try to get this ring. It drops, I mean, they drop like candy. I've gotten tons of them. Barshan drops them left and right. I've got them in dungeons and everything else too. Now this is actually specific to the barb, Ring of Red Furor. You know, gives us strength, attack speed, maximum fury, resource regeneration, all awesome for the build. And then you can see right there, after spending 100 fury within 3 seconds, your next cast of Upheaval, and the other ones, is a guaranteed critical strike that deals 26% multiplicative bonus critical strike damage. So, like I went over with the skill rotation, you basically want to always use Upheaval twice. And the way that we have it set up, guys, we have 180 resource. Our Upheaval cost 80, so we need 160 to cast it twice. So we have enough to where we can cast it twice. We want to keep it up at all times, and as long as you're casting it once and then once again right after that, your next strike is always a critical strike. So that's kind of the rotation like we had talked about. And then down here, you know, we already talked about this. You want to get yourself an axe like this with similar stats to this, and you want to throw the aspect of elements on it. You know, for 7 seconds, every other 7 seconds, basically you get a 60% multiplier to physical damage. That's a huge boost, so you definitely want to have that. And then over here, guys, in your jewelry, you can see that I have the skulls for total armor, 250 on each one, which is awesome. Gets our armor boosted up there. But if you don't have maximum resistances, this is a way to put in whatever you need to get your resistances capped off. Alright, into the skill tree. Up top, our generator, we're going to take Lunging Strike. Like I said, I don't use this anymore. Maybe once in a while if I have to. For our core skill, we want to get Upheaval maxed out. We have ranks for Upheaval also on our gloves. And then we have 2 ranks on our amulet. We're going to go into Enhance Upheaval. Has a chance to stun enemies. And then also, if Upheaval damages at least 2 enemies or a boss, you gain Berserking for 2 seconds. Increase to 3 seconds if it damages at least 4 enemies. So it's awesome. Upheaval just keeps berserking up like all the time. It's good to have. In our defensive skills now, we want to get 3 points into Imposing Presence, 18% maximum life. You know, overpower hits are based also damage-wise off of your maximum life and your Fortify. So that's what we definitely want to take that. Then we want to get Martial Vigor up here for damage reduction against elites. One into Rallying Cry, like we talked about earlier, grants us Unstoppable. Maximum life is Fortify. You know, and then it gives us movement speed and resource regeneration. Back into Enhanced and Strategic. Iron Skin, you know, just awesome defensive. Gives us Fortify, a barrier of our missing maximum life. Back into Enhanced and Strategic. Right here, we're going to get 1 point into Outburst and 1 point down here into Tough as Nails. Now, when we hit people with Upheaval, it already makes them bleed, which is huge defensively for our aspects, to keep Disobedience up and then get more damage reduction from the aspect that we have on our helmet. And then also right here we have Thorns, so anytime an enemy's hitting us, they're getting hit back, right? Which is taking our Disobedience. And then when they get hit back with the Thorns, they're also made to where they're bleeding. I mean, this is doing no actual damage overall, like to kill monsters, but it's just, you know, keeping our defenses up at all times, which is really good. We're going to take Challenging Shout right here. Basically, we taunt nearby enemies. We get 40% damage reduction. We also get 20% bonus maximum life and 3 Fury every time we're hit. Come back into Enhanced and to Tactical. For the brawling skills, guys, we're going to go into Warcry. We're going to obviously get Warcry. It increases your damage dealt by 15%. And then it grants us Berserking for 4 seconds, which is another multiplier. And then also grants us more fortification. We want to keep our fortification up at all times. That's why I chose that anywhere that I could, because when our fortification is up, we just have way more damage reduction and tank way more stuff. Back into Enhanced and to Mighty. Right here, we're going to get Booming Voice. Your shout skills effect durations are increased by 24% multiplicatively. And then Guttural Yell. Your shout skills cause enemies to deal 12% less damage. We're going to get Aggressive Resistance, 12% damage reduction while berserking. We're going to take Prolific Fury for more fury generation. On into our Weapon Mastery. We're not going to actually take any Weapon Masteries. We're going to get 3 into Pit Fighter for increased damage, close enemies, and distant damage reduction. Down here into Thick Skin, we're going to get 1 here. We can get back to Counter Offensive while you have Fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, which pretty much always you deal 12% multiplicative increased damage. Come down to in our ultimate skills, we're not going to actually take any ultimate skill. Now, instead of the generator, if you wanted to, you could grab Wrath of the Berserker for unstoppable, more damage, all that good stuff. I didn't want to mess with it, and like I said, once in a while we are still using the generator, so I didn't take that, but you could if you wanted to. Over here we're going to take heavy-handed, 12% multiplicative damage with critical strikes. Right here we're going to take brute force. Your overpowers deal 45% increased damage when using a two-handed weapon, and that's multiplicative, big boost right there. And then wall up your skills using bludgeoning weapons, deal 15% increased damage if they hit a stunned or vulnerable enemy, and you know, we're making enemies vulnerable, especially the stronger ones, so that's a 15% multiplier. Down here, we're going to, for the key passive, we're going to take Unbridled Rage, where skills deal 135% multiplicative increased damage, but cost 100% more fury. We actually want them to cost more fury, so we're, you know, proccing our amulet and our ring more often. As for the Paragon board, there will be a link in the description if you want to check that out. You can see it over on Mobalytics. I did try to min-max this Paragon board as much as I possibly could and pull as much damage out and defenses at the same time. So starting off, we're going to come up, we're going to get physical damage and life. Up here in this socket, we're going to put Crusher. You want to get all your glyphs to at least level 15, preferably up to 21 if you can, but so you get the bigger radius at 15. And then you can see right here, this gives us damage with maces. We're obviously using a mace. And then another huge one right there is while wielding a mace, you deal 30% multiplicative increase overpower damage. So this just synergizes with the build really well. We're going to get tenacity down here for maximum life and armor, get this stuff around it. We're going to take iron strength for armor and strength. We're going to get physical damage and strength right here from raw power. Next board that we will come into, guys, is going to be the Bonebreaker board. Now this is another way that we have to overpower. You see right here, every 12 seconds, your next skill is a guaranteed overpower. That's already 3 ways, and there's even one more way that we'll go over in just a minute. In this board, we're going to come up and get 8% maximum life, total armor. Up here, we're going to get damage while fortified and damage while healthy. Up here, we're going to get bludgeoner, overpower damage and damage with two-handed bludgeoning weapons. Up here in this socket, we're going to put might. This gives us an 8% multiplier for the additional bonus while we have two-handed weapons, which is nice. And then also, you know, it boosts the nodes around here, giving us overpower damage, willpower, a little bit of damage reduction while healthy. We're going to take vigor for damage reduction while healthy and strength. We're going to get overpower damage right here in strength, and we're going to get all this overpower around here. The next board that we're going to come into is going to be over here, the Decimator board. Going to come over this way, we're going to grab Arrogance, damage reduction from vulnerable and strength. Right here, we're going to put Dominate. This is a pretty important glyph. Gives us overpower damage, really nice. And then here's our fourth way of overpowering. As you can see right there, after not overpowering for 30 seconds, your next attack will overpower. So with this build, I mean, we're just overpowering pretty much close to every attack. I mean, it's pretty frequent. Anyways, we're going to take that. We're going to come down. We didn't max out with the willpower that we could have gotten ranged, just with the skill points how they are and my choices. This is all we got. I mean, with this build, we have around 2,500 overpower damage as it is right now. So this is pretty good. And I got this already to level 21. The glyphs that you want to level up, guys, first, I would say first is Ire for the damage while berserking. And then this one right here, Dominate. Anyways, as you can see right here, though, got this to 39 willpower, giving us 300% overpower damage. Really nice. Come down here, you're going to want to grab Decimator. Each time you make an enemy vulnerable, your damage is increased by 10% multiplicative for 5 seconds. Overpowering a vulnerable enemy grants an additional 10% bonus. Awesome to have. Next board that we're going to come into is Warbringer. We're not going to take Warbringer, but we are going to get this board. We're going to come over here in this glyph socket. We're going to put Wrath. Basically, we get critical strike damage, and then also for the additional bonus, you see skills that critically strike generate 3 fury. We're going to get Condition right here for all resist and 10 to strength. Physical damage and strength over here, raw power. We're going to come over here now. We get Fury and Fury on kill. Awesome to have. You definitely want to have these. Get this one Fury to kill up here and this one up here. There's even more Fury around here. I mean, if you wanted to change things around a little bit, you could. I wouldn't, though, for this build. This is pretty optimized. I mean, I tested and did a lot of things with this build, and this seems to work out the best. I'm going to come up here. We're going to grab Enrage for damage while berserking. We want to get all the damage while berserking as we possibly can anywhere that we have it, and we do with this build. You're going to want to come over here. We're going to get Ire. This is our most important glyph, and there's 75 strength and radius. Right there, while berserking, you take 10% reduced damage, and we get a ton of damage while berserking. I already have that, like I said, up to level 21. That'll be the first glyph you want to level all the way up. We're going to come down here, get Fierce, damage while berserking, damage reduction from close, strength. Make sure you get all the strength nodes that we do in this area. More damage while berserking in this area. We're going to come down here, berserk for more damage while berserking and damage to elites, and get these over here for more damage while berserking. And then we're going to come into our final board. We're going to get Blood Rage. This is the biggest legendary node of all. The reason we take so much damage while berserking, as you can see right there, killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant berserking for 5 seconds. Now that's another reason that we also took bleed, and it helps out a lot, keeps our berserking up. But at the same time, you see right there, your damage is increased by 25% multiplicative of your damage while berserking bonus. And our current bonus right now with the damage while berserking that we have is at 72% multiplicative. So that's just boosting our damage immensely. So that's why that stat is really important. We're going to come down here. We're going to get Enraged for more damage while berserking and berserking duration, and get all of this around here for more damage while berserking. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. This build's really fun. I'm going to try to push the Avatar of Zir as far as we can with it. If you guys ended up enjoying the video, it's helpful. Don't forget to like and sub. Leave me a comment down below. There will be lots more, guides like this in the future, and there will be gameplay right now at the end. Thanks for watching, guys.
Ready yet. I'm low on fuel. Ready yet.